have we gotten all men in here?
Got to diversify.
Well, I have a feeling the makeup of this committee is going to look a lot different than the changes.
All right, thank you, everybody. Let's go ahead and officially call the meeting to order at 12:30. Let's do a quick roll call.
Brian Lee.
Jason Beatty?
Doug Zerbel.
Cameron Ferris?
Neil Burton.
John Duckworth.
All right, and we have a quorum for today. Minutes.
I have read the minutes and I propose that we accept them as written.
Second?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, John, it's your floor.
Thank you.
You got back to back.
Thank you. First of all, I'll give you an update from last night. None of you were here, and I don't know how many of you may have watched it on YouTube. And I'm going to save the golf cart piece to last. Just a couple of things. We had an update on the metered parking. Started that, which should be late April, 1st of May, and it will be lenient as far as warning and all that kind of stuff to give everybody an opportunity to kind of get acclimated with it. Particularly considering it's graduation week as well, and we'll have a lot of people in town that are not familiar with it at all. So we'll get through that. So again, that should be, I think, we'll roll out just as it's supposed to. The other thing, and I got Jacob in here, and he may need to come up. We requested a public hearing for May. Yeah, the date's not that important, but it's about a bond on the spaces. And so, you mean a butcher, or do you want to try to explain it?
Up to you.
Come up here and explain it, so I'm a butcher.
I think this is what, I think we've talked about it before, but it's the bonding for commercial spaces of mixed-use buildings. So this is the idea that a development doing these apartments above the commercial space is going to have to either, at the time of CO for the residential, they're either going to have the commercial built out, so seeing at the same time, or they're going to have to put up a bond for 150% of the build-out cost for those units, and then they would get the money back as they, as they build it out. And if after 2 years, if they don't build it out, then we take that money and we distribute it as some sort of a grant program, is the idea.
How do you determine what the build out cost is? Like a medical, dental, office,
We're just
retail?
gonna take the average, so we left it up to staff to make that determination and, so that we can be kind of flexible. But, the vast majority of these things are retail and restaurants. So we're just gonna be basically taking what the average of what we see as the trend around it and using that as our build out cost.
So would a developer be able to reduce that bond if they went and took it to a vanilla level of build out?
Yeah, if they build out more of it, then we could reduce that overall number.
Okay.
Yep.
Would a developer also be able to restrict what would go in there? I know some of them don't want restaurant space below because of the smell and noise. Would they say this will be retail only, so then the build-out cost will be retail based?
That's interesting. We have not even discussed that with anyone. No one's ever said that. Most of them have actually encouraged restaurants. It's been the opposite. It's like that's how they draw in tenants, is having restaurants and something interesting. But I guess we could discuss that with them if they put that as an actual part of a proposed lease. But I don't know how they would ever enforce that over time.
I think what you guys are driving at is can they negotiate that?
I mean, yeah, we're gonna be reasonable. I mean, they're gonna be, if there's some, like you said, if they build it out to a certain level, we'll definitely take that in consideration. I mean,
And so the motivation for the developer to put somebody in that space is to get that bond money back.
correct.
That's the
an
motivation.
incentive. That's the motivation. Is
Gotcha.
that, we'd rather them, and that's the preference, is that they build it out totally and they all get COs and we don't have to deal with, getting the money at all.
And so with it being finished space, let's say they finish the space.
And that's a CO for a specific use, but yes.
Right. So let's say I'm a developer and my builder guy that's already building the upper 3-4 floors, right, has already got a half a tractor trailer of gypsum board sitting on there. And I can just have my plumbers rough in and put a bathroom. And I just go ahead and get it to a certain state of move-in, especially if it's for retail, to be able to reduce that bond. Does that square footage then become part of their overall property tax valuation?
Yes.
Because I remember in some previous conversations we had that it was almost like these were glorified crawl spaces, that they had gravel floors, they might have had rough plumb, but, I mean, there was really,
That's correct. If you ever saw the youth center, for years, it was gravel inside.
Right. So then that square footage does not count towards property taxes?
I honestly, how the whole property tax works at the county level is something I'm really not clear on. I think
Yeah,
I think they go by square footage of the whole building,
Yeah,
but,
Yeah, it's-
the building's the building.
yeah, I don't think that matters.
So it's the footprint, it's not the square footage of each individual
No,
apartment?
it's the
Okay.
building's the building.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, they value,
It would be based on heated square feet, right?
Yeah, I would have said, yeah.
Well, even on that a little bit, it may add some incremental cost, but it wouldn't be a
It's not
big
that
swing.
much.
It's
Okay.
not breaking their
In the
bank
scheme
one
of
way or
things.
another to pay.
No, I meant
taxes.
for additional revenue for the city.
No, I know. Well, we just had one sale downtown, and it was the entire building, which would have included some retail pieces as well.
Right.
And I guess my question was around, I know retail and restaurants going in there, but if we shift and start trying to get other types of businesses, professional space, are we limiting ourselves by how we, just making sure the costs are in alignment with how we want that shell to look for someone coming in, tearing down, rebuilding, or holding the appropriate amount of money to do that? Because, it could just be a range of
Kevin,
configurations.
definitely range, and, I mean, we consider ourselves reasonable people. There are definitely configurations that lend themselves more towards restaurants. There's, like Earl Street, that one little unit down in the corner. If they told me, yeah, we're really gonna be aiming for more of an office or something, I would say, yeah, that sounds reasonable, because honestly, that doesn't scream to me, we're gonna put a restaurant there, or even retail. So like, I would totally take all that into consideration. You can usually, as the Supreme Court says, I know it's art when I look at it, you can usually, by saying how the configuration of what their kind of intentions are.
But as a retailer, if you show me a space that already has bathrooms to code and are compliant and everything, and all I gotta do is come in there and decorate it and
Yep.
put my inventory,
That's easy.
that's easy.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Okay.
And that's what we want, and that's what people have brought up numerous times. Oh, what about if they just put someone in there just to get them in there and then it goes out of business a year later? That's fine with us.
Yeah.
Because that at least gets us to that first stage where the next guy can move in easily.
Right.
And that's what we want. We don't want this huge upfront cost for a little, because that's what keeps out the little guys, is that big upfront nut.
Okay.
But it's also encouraging these people that are coming into town to maybe bring the total package with them.
Yes, exactly, and
You know what I
because they
mean? So
can
it
do it
helps you-
cheaper if they're doing it all at once.
Yeah.
And like, so we do have people who are doing that right now, like, I don't know, Bixby's was good about it. They had been leasing it before they ever, so they just went right into it. I believe that 412 College is doing the same thing,
yeah,
so.
Okay.
Smart.
yeah.
Are we ready to vote?
Do we need a vote?
No.
No? Oh, okay. It's just an
I'm sorry,
update.
just one.
Oh, okay. I thought we were gonna make a recommendation or anything, so, okay.
Y'all are
Well,
really making.
yeah, that's, we've got a public hearing next.
So
it's kinda
I do
ways
have
to
a
go.
question though. Jacob, you and I corresponded by
Yes.
email. So is there going to be a formal presentation on this for vote at council?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So
that's not-
the next stage on May 5th is gonna be the public hearing. That's where I present it to the public. And then the next stage after that is the first reading in council, and that's where I really am having the back and forth discussion with council.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you needed a recommendation from the committee or anything, so.
I mean, a letter of support from you guys wouldn't be a bad thing.
Y'all already recommended it.
Yeah, you guys already
we did that
Yeah,
at our
that's what brought us
working-
to the level, yeah.
It was our
Sorry.
working session about a year ago.
Yep,
Right.
Where
it just
you-
took a long time.
Yeah. No, fully in favor of the
Yeah.
direction you're headed with that.
Excellent.
I think that, to you guys' point, that bond level needs to be high enough so that they can't feel like, because most investors, not the current ones that are currently working, because they're a little different than normal, is they look at that as just cost of doing business, and they want to get the students in and get that finished and up and running. So I think where you're going is gonna be a win-win for everybody, so long as that number's high enough so that
Well, yeah,
a little guy can get in there.
Well, that's what also I was worried about, that variable of what, 5 years ago, the cost of building something compared to today, good
Oh, yeah.
Lord. So how are you gonna keep up with that?
Well, that's
day,
what, we did it, that's tricky. We did it 150% of build out.
Oh, that's
So
fantastic.
we put in that wiggle room of figuring, because if the last 2 years, 2 years go like the last 2 years go, that 150 might not cover it.
That's what I'm hearing.
So, but at least it's something.
Yeah, it used to be about 100, when I built the downtown store, it was about $130, $140 a foot.
Yeah, we're
Now
over
it's
190.
300.
Yeah.
Depending on what you
It's more
do.
than that.
Depending on what you do.
Excellent.
All right, thank you. Back to you, John.
The next thing I think is, we'd be interested in is we had a first reading on the proposal, the rezoning of the property across from Little John, the area, the fill-in area and through there. And so Mercy is going to come in, Mercy Housing, I think, is going to come in, and ultimately there'll be 168 units in there that will be affordable housing type units. In other words, it'll be for that purpose and that purpose only, so it will not be student housing. So the income requirements and all of that will put, it's like 60% of the AMI for this area in here. So it's definitely focused for that crowd and will be built in there. So first reading on that passed without any problem. So that will soon be coming forward. And last but not least, golf carts. Had a good turnout, despite the fact some of y'all weren't there. So it's okay. And we had, I think, because I wrote down all the names of the people who came up, I think we had 16 people that actually came up during the hour, which was roughly an hour in which we were here. And the theme was pretty much the same. There were a lot of, lots of, I'll use the term, trying to be nice about it, pushback as far as the new residents were concerned. A couple of things that I thought were kind of interesting. They brought up about designated golf cart parking, considering parking issues downtown. I don't know where that would go. They were talking about permitting for nighttime driving, particularly for the athletic events, which right now, it's obviously well thought out. And as any of you know, as far as the golf carts are concerned, particularly after the football game, any of the athletic events at night, people are breaking the law all day long because the state does not, there's not a law on the books at the state level that allows for the golf carts at night except for the barrier islands. Then enforceability, the ability to enforce it when you're overwhelmed with golf carts after a football game and you got 8 or 10 police officers in Clemson that are trying to direct traffic and also ticket people from that perspective. It was brought up about the number of accidents involving golf carts, and one, I can't think of the guy's name, the insurance agent. I'm looking back at the names, I'm not certain which one it was. But anyway, he'd had one claim in 5 years. And then Chief mentioned 2 others, but anyway. I did find interesting that I thought this number was low. One of the rubs right now is identification. So that's what's driving the thought about having registration within the city, which there was pushback on that too, by the way. And so, anyway, the carts are supposed to be registered at the state level and insured. And, I think that's the high percentage of them have, but one of the reasons from identification perspective is that when they have a cart that's not where it's supposed to be, and they want to identify the person and call them and get in touch with them so they won't tow it or whatever the case may be, it seems difficult for them to get to that site, however they get there. Yet, last night, and I'm not saying, I don't know how he did it, but the question kind of came up about how many carts there were in Clemson. And he did report that there were 200 carts in Clemson, so I'm assuming that he got that number from that particular site. And I don't know when he got it, whether he got it while I was sitting here or whether he already knew that. 2 things that came out of that. I was surprised that it was only 200 golf carts in Clemson. I think there are 200 in my neighborhood. So anyway, but maybe that's a good number. I don't know. I would think it's more than that. But anyway, again, that was the number he threw out there. There's probably a few more than that, but I don't know. But I think the bigger rub is the registration, citywide registration, and whether it's for residents only, and residents, obviously in businesses. So if you had a business here, you could have a golf cart registered here as well. And then the other piece is the rental side of that. We all know that particularly during the athletic events, and particularly in the fall during football season, people like R&R and others bring in carts that are rental, whether it be within the community or whether it be on campus. And I think we have to, if we're going to do something with it, we have to get our arms around that. And it seems to me that this is just my take of this, and I can't speak for the other people on council. But a lot of the people felt like since we had state ordinances, why do we need our own set of ordinances? I'd like to think that's kind of where I land on that. But if we need to deal with the rental units that are here, then we need to figure that out. I mean, we need to come up with a plan, because, let's use R&R, but there are lots of others that do it. They don't have business licenses, so that we need to, get them with a business license. They know, no matter who you are, if you're gonna have a fleet of rental units, you know which ones they are. And so then they would come in here and register those 12 or 15, however many it is. And then at the end, every week, whenever there's a need to bring them in here, they could identify the ones they're bringing. They could say who they're going to, give us a spreadsheet to that effect, and then we would know where those cars belong in the event there was a need to tow it or whatever the case may be. I think it can be solved. It's just that we got to work towards it. But I would suspect, I think of the 15 or 16 we hear, only 3 really spoke in favor of it. And I clearly heard it. I did anyway. I think everybody else did too. So I'm not certain what the next step on it is. But it's not close. I don't see it being close to being passed at this point in time.
Why couldn't they just follow the state why couldn't the city just make all golf carts be LSVs, low speed vehicles, which means they have to be tagged? And then that way you could identify them. The only other problem is.
You should have been here last night before you made that statement, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
well, I don't live here, so that's why I don't attend them that much. I mean, I live in Oconee and Salem, so I don't live here. I don't come to the games. I sure stay away from this town during game day. But my point is that if you make it like a law where, because LSVs are LSVs, they have to have tags. You could identify them. The problem with R&R and them is they're not only renting to customers like you and I, but they're also renting to the university. So you can't identify what's what.
Well, I mean, so let's just use the university as an example. They're probably renting it to a fraternity or sorority on campus for the most part. So again, you would identify that fraternity or sorority and how many they got over there. You do the same thing there. Even though they're on campus, we know they're coming to the city. It's the same thing with Lot 4. Down, I think it's got a different term now, but it's the same thing down there. Those carts need to be registered as well, because we know they're coming onto the city. That's got to be solved, okay? But I mean, the LSVs are considerably more expensive than the regular golf carts, and so to require, I mean, the way I look at this, we don't need to turn this into a negative. I mean, this has economic impact, or has the potential of having economic impact on our community during those 7 weekends are extremely important, but it's not just those 7 weekends. I mean, there are other times it's important, graduation, some of the basketball, whatever the case may be. We don't need to turn it into a negative from an economic perspective. And so that's kind of where I am. I guess, and I may say it ultimately, but I think there are people in this community that like to see us build a wall and a moat around Clemson and have gates, and we open them at 6 a.m. and we close them at 6 p.m. I mean, we can't go there. So, anyway.
But I think you're right. I think there's already laws around this. I think they should have a business license.
Yeah.
If I'm required to have one, they should have to have one. But I guess you just need to flesh out that whole spreadsheet
Well, that's
thing.
how do you determine they're doing business on campus? Or how do you determine if they're doing business in the city?
Well, I think what you do is you say you can't bring it onto city streets unless you have this.
Right. I mean, here's the thing. And I think you've got some experience with this. Somebody told me, so I need to get with you. We need to get with you. Somebody does. And we need to go visit these people and talk to them. We just don't need to be, I don't want us to be arbitrary about this. But I mean, based on what we heard last night, I'm not sure what the next step is, but I feel like it needs to go back to the police advisory committee, or they need to figure out, if the most important thing to them is the registration fees, they need to figure it out, is the way I look at it. And also, I think it's passed the state house, and it may be in the Senate now, is a bill that would change the nighttime driving of these golf carts. Because people, I don't care what the law is, one of the folks, I could, y'all like you know him, and not surprised, but I mean, he said, he didn't care what the law was, he was gonna do what he was gonna do. But I mean, the reality of it is, I mean, after these games, particularly football games, they're just everywhere. And I mean, if you think about it, those are 50, 100 less cars that you're having to deal with. So again, we don't need to turn this into a negative from an economic.
Right, and wouldn't it be complicated because Clemson University is its own municipality, so
That's
it's
what
not
I'm
like.
saying. I don't know how you're gonna determine between the
Well,
two.
it's all about what's on what's in our town.
Yeah.
Okay, but we do know that the units that are on campus, when I say that, the ones that are rented on campus and the ones on lot 4, they come to town. Okay, that's what you gotta deal with. You're not gonna get 100%, you're not gonna get them all.
No, and then again, being able to police this. I mean, you just mentioned we have 10 policemen and they're gonna be able to pull golf carts over when they're cutting their yards. I mean,
So anyway, more to come there. Any other questions about, the council meeting?
Golf carts? I mean, sorry.
Duckworth was sorry he missed all that.
Well, there's a second
It's
topic.
easy. If you want to get a ticket or a call, register for a permit. If you don't register for a permit and you're parked illegally, you're going to be towed.
Could be.
I mean, just give them the choice of registering or not registering.
But again, we got people that are not residents that are bringing, you got a guy, let's just say, that rents an Airbnb somewhere in town, which there are a few. And so he's gonna want to have a golf cart, so the chances are he's either gonna bring his own or he's gonna rent one. And I mean, he's a resident that weekend because he's, in that.
That's where you probably talk to a coastal community, because there's a
That's
lot
what I
of
was
these places have done that. So
make
they
everybody
deal
aware,
with
hey,
it.
you need to educate your people
Right.
that are coming into town, or educate your campgrounds.
Right.
Or like you said, these golf cart dealers.
Well,
have that
that's why I
conversation.
do feel like if we go to them and visit with them, I think, maybe some may not, but I think most would be willing to comply,
It's just
Right.
communication. That's all it is really
Yeah.
to their customers is, hey, by the way, when you go to the university,
Right.
expect these rules.
Well, I mean, again, I don't want us to be arbitrary about it.
Or you know what I mean, but when you go to these events, maybe.
Right.
And like you said, the sororities, fraternities, organizations rent them and they use them to shuttle.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the parking.
Yeah.
So they say, okay, we're gonna make a run to go pick up the parents. and,
Right.
And so they are crossing multiple, they are crossing into municipality, but how,
Right.
it's something for somebody smarter than me.
Before we change topics, any other questions on this update?
It is like the jet skis of land.
Yeah,
I mean, essentially,
it's fun when you're on it.
It's like gnats.
it's because it's the same kind, you're not supposed to drive them after dark. They're really only fun and convenient for the person that's on it. When you're behind the golf cart and you're driving slow and the golf cart takes the last parking space for a full-size car, you're like,
Yeah.
this is not helpful at all. But if you own the golf cart, it's the greatest thing you've ever had.
Right.
I mean, that's, but so how do we, because no one's ever frowning on a golf cart. They're happy. Just like a jet ski.
Always a good
Because
time.
they're drinking.
Usually got something in their hand too.
And I mean, one of the things that didn't come out is
How
that
do you feel
there was
about a jet
virtually
ski? I
no
know how I
discussion
feel.
about the ones who are in Patrick Square.
Yeah.
And I'm
As a
convinced
fisherman.
there's a bunch of them in Patrick Square too.
Oh, yeah.
So, that again, would follow under these same rules. And it's gonna be easier to get away with breaking the law in Patrick Square probably
Yeah.
than downtown, particularly at night.
But as we plow forward, make the city more walkable, more trails, then when you can connect Patrick Square
Or
easily.
what if the city was somehow, if you were going to the game and encouraged to use this direction? So like cross over there at the church, at perimeter, rather than everybody finding their own little way, go with the flow rather than trying to go against it.
One of the things that I think you're gonna hear everybody talk about is that you have multiple agencies here for the games, okay? And so the police in Clemson would understand everything, but the police from Malden or the police from Seneca or the police from wherever, and then the highway patrol, they're all gonna interpret things differently. I mean, we've had to come up with lane closures on 93, and we've had people upset about that. And because you got one set of high patrolmen that are down here, and it's okay, and you got another set that are up here, and well, I don't know about that. And so you just don't have any consistency from that perspective. And so, that's just the name of the game.
All right. Very good. Next topic, you're still up.
I know, already.
We're ready.
There's been some conversation about economic development, okay? And I know you guys are EDAC, which is Economic Development Advisory Committee or whatever, commission, whatever. But we are looking at possibly doing somewhat of a transformation here with that. And so the plan would be to do a more robust economic development piece that wouldn't necessarily reside in this arena right here, this group of people right here. So, and it's not something we're going to do just like that. It's going to take probably throughout the course of the summer to get to that the end result. But we really need to redefine this mission, this particular mission, as it applies to economic development. And, you know, we need to rewrite your mission statement as a result of that. So that's something that's going to take some time and some thought and some, you know, some input and feedback and everything. But at the end of the day, as far as this group's concerned, you're probably going to end up looking more like not just a downtown merchant association, but a citywide merchant association. That's what you would end up being more likely to be. And then what we would do is the economic development piece. Again, we need to come up with, you know, their mission statement and what it needs to look like, and then where it needs to reside. So does it reside, so for example, in planning and codes, and because, I mean, that's an economic, you know, Nathan's got an economic background there, economic development background. Does it end up residing in planning and codes or someplace like that? And so, again, that's to be determined. But I kind of use this analogy, I use it again when I spoke about this last night. This group's not going to be looking for restaurants and those types of things. This group's going to be looking for businesses that, you know, supply things, or they're going to be in technology, or they're going to be in professional services. So I think about BMW. And so let's think of the university as BMW, and then think about all the industries that surround BMW that provide the parts for those automobiles. We need to look at the economic development in the same way. And we need to, I think that would, obviously the university would be our first target for that, but they're going to have a vet school over there. Well, there are going to be things that are associated with that vet school that maybe we could go out and try to find those types of people or those types of businesses that would come into our community, or other places like that. And so when we put this group together, then there needs to be representation from the university on there. And, you know, there needs to be representation from Tri-County Tech on there. And those types of even from Pickens County, the Farley's name, Ray Farley, he needs to be a part of that. So we're looking at it on a broader, bigger scale than just what the retail piece is going to be. So we've got a committee that's already been put together. It includes myself and Nathan and Lindsay and Windsor Cheryl from the university. And Windsor's well connected over there as well. And so we're going to be, and John's going to be involved in it to some degree, but we're going to kind of work through that process. Like I said, it'll probably take, I see it taking at least until August to get there. Because, I mean, we want to do it right, and we've got to define all these things. But we also have to report back to council as we go, and then they'll have to sign off on everything that we do. But essentially, what we kind of sort of need to do, I mean, thinking about from y'all's perspective, in this perspective, it's almost going to be a push down as far as the things that we're looking for and how we can do there and how we can get there, who we can incent, and how we incent that to make it work. But that's the direction we want to go. And it's nothing against y'all, nothing against what you do, but we need to take it in a different direction, I feel like.
Do you see manufacturing as part of the scope of what you're looking to recruit?
Well, it'd be nice, but where do you put it? That's the problem. And we only got like 8 square miles. So if it were manufacturing, it'd be on a smaller scale. But I'm not saying it couldn't happen. But I mean, I guess it all depends on what that looks like. So
Yeah, I mean, annex as well as,
now?
if you annex and then
Yeah.
build an infrastructure in cooperation with who
Right.
you're annexing from, and just make it
It's a
happen.
possibility as well. But again, it'll be businesses that are somewhat unique to Clemson today that we need to go look for. Because I mean, the university continues to build and grow and everything else, and so there are needs over there that I feel like we could probably supplement. But you've got to get, not only there, but even in Tri-County Tech, you've got to get the people on board that they want to help you, or when I say you, us, do that. But I do feel like we can make that happen. We just got to get the right people involved and interested in doing that. So we got to sell it. We got to sell that position as well.
And I think it'd be twofold to answer your question, Doug. I mean, I think for anything that's in it, like you got to have, council's got to define it, got to give you your subset to go after of what exists in the parameters we can currently play in. If you want to get into manufacturing and annexation, well, that's going to be the owner of the land's asking in, so you kind of just tee that up on the periphery, because we don't have it yet, but we need to maybe be geared to it. So I would almost see it as if that is something that council wants us to pursue, that is your corridor for it, but kind of, but more of a, maybe on the short term, infilling, low impact from a traffic perspective, of well-paying jobs that kind of bring in stuff to,
Right.
and that may pull some of that in from the outside.
Agree. And then do you also see staffing, professional staffing that would support this effort?
That's my view. So, and I think Nathan would probably maybe say either, I think you might would say the same thing. We maybe have somebody involved from that perspective as well. That, you know, and also I think it depends, because you've got some pretty good assets, and Ray Farley, you might could help you initially with that too, because he's done a good job for the county. And he needs to play a role in that too.
Don't kill the messenger. But has it ever, because of our annex limitations and our city limitations, has this ever been thought about including a Pendleton to collaborate, to bring something in that would somehow share the assets or share resources somehow because of our limitation on where we can grow and those kind of things? Because all these things are going to benefit our area, but I know there's a county line over there, but is there any kind of consideration of those type things, or is it always about Pickens County?
Well,
Because that's the only area that I see that could possibly grow is at 76 going that direction. So I'm just asking.
I'll answer this question that hasn't been considered. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't be. I mean, I think that's part of the scope. I mean, we're going to be meeting twice monthly, two Fridays a month as we go forward. So I think that could be in the scope as you kind of
Is
advance.
Tri-County Tech in Pickens or Anderson County?
It's an Anderson.
As we look at this too, is there's already some big players when it comes to light manufacturing that have already had pretty good spaces. And F&N's facility got their walkthrough this week. I mean, there's stuff going on out at the industrial parks and the second industrial parks. So I think what, this lower hanging fruit is the spaces which already exist in this town where we can, like I've said before, turn academic might into economic might. I don't think we're looking at building widgets here, but we can use it to.
That's right.
Develop the widget.
Yeah, that's right, intellectual widgets.
You could have a lab.
Right.
Yeah, a lab or
Right.
research or, when it comes down to app development or computer services or,
IT stuff, anything like that.
yeah, and consulting and, that kind of thing. Because that doesn't take up a lot of sewer, doesn't take up a lot of resources, doesn't take up a lot of energy. And we have space that we could easily adapt to those kind of things within the 8 miles that we have.
Certainly.
And I think, Brian, to your point, I think, to me anyway, this is a Clemson-centric group, but you're naive if you don't talk to your neighbors, so that maybe we do get the intellectual capacity in the city, but somebody else has the space to do the actual manufacturing or something. So I think you do collaborate. But in my mind, this is a Clemson-centric, the 8 square miles and what we would pick up. Because we're actually in Anderson County partially, so the county line
I know
doesn't
there's a
matter.
little strip over there by Nels Park, but I mean, it's just a thought.
It makes sense. I mean, again, we are in the infancy of this, how we're going to do this.
The other thing I see it could be a good win for the chamber. And like if you turn the Downtown Merchant Association to a broader merchant association, you have city input, and then the chamber's got to revitalize. I mean, it seems like it could be a good lift on both sides of this.
So would the title, and I don't care about titles, but would the mission of this group also change?
Yes. Right. We got to redefine that. And I think it's only fair that some of you guys are involved in that as we go down that path as well.
And this committee may dissolve, it may not.
Yeah, 'cause
I think this committee dissolves, you get a new economic development one, and then you
'Cause I don't have the
mature
skill set for
Downtown
the
Merchant
committee
Association into a
you're
merchant
talking about.
association.
Yeah,
Small business,
Right.
Small business group or something like that.
which should probably be under the
which would
chamber
be,
and not the
yes.
city.
And that's why I say it could be good for the chamber,
Yeah.
as you break it out.
Change is good because we've talked about some of the topics here kind of delving into, but we've never had the influence or the ability to except for to have a working session, just create ideas that nobody's going to be able to follow up on. So if you have the right people and you staff it and you look at it in a broader way with people that can make a difference with it, I think all of us would be in favor of that. So
It'd be awesome if it could be like a little mini research triangle kind of thing.
Well, and right, I mean, and here's what's interesting, we got like 10% vacancy in Clemson, so we don't have a lot. And then if you look at some of those vacancies, it's probably would be better served to be demoed and something else go there. What we don't want to have happen, and this isn't a negative towards the university, but we don't want the university coming in and buying that parcel of land and building that thing there. We want to do that, or we want to have these people do it, because anything they do takes it off our tax record. So that's the negative of that. But we want to support. I think if you look at it, they're the gorilla, so to speak. We want to figure out ways we can support them in various ways. And, you know, even in athletics, although I think that's probably a bridge too far, but you never know from that standpoint.
Just need a good leakage report on the university of what they need.
Yeah, but we got to get the right person or persons from the university on this committee as we go.
And I think most municipalities, Clemson's size or larger, have an executive position that does this.
Right, I know.
You know,
yeah, and it's been effective too.
and even Central and pick and split one, you know, they couldn't afford their own, so they
Right.
split one. So there is a precedent that communities that are our size do have an executive position that do this exact job.
Right.
So I think that's a good thing. And I think the people that were working for us right now are busy
Well,
as they
not
could
even
be
that, but
already. But
everybody in this room has also heard the growth expectations of this area. So we're already we're not drowning, but we're already kind of like just hovering, just keeping it afloat. And I think if you really want the progression of what the city or the downtown businesses want to collaborate with, you're going to have to find somebody that's going to have to go out there and get it done. It just can't be just assumed that the city's going to do it or the chamber's going to do it. It's got to have to be a
You
driven.
got to have a group.
Yeah, it's got to, you know. So I think this is a great. It's a
But
great
again,
thing.
like I warned the council last night, this is not going to happen just overnight. It's going to take us a little while to get this right. We
Do you
want to
have
get it
some,
right.
I'm sorry, do you have somebody that does it well, that you've identified a city of this size that has an effective model that you're going to, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel?
Well, at this point, not, but I'd like to think that Nathan could help us find that group with his background.
Yeah, and I think to your point with that, maybe once they identify sign what you want to pursue, you go and find other towns that are doing those,
Right.
that specific business model too.
We want to find somebody of similar size, and it's
Right.
not anybody right around here. It's
But
going
you have to have somebody that's doing this full-time. You
Right.
can't do it piecemeal.
right, right.
Good. Are you the architect trying to get this all kind of shaped into a direction?
I guess, I don't know, but I have plenty of help sitting right there with Tim, and then also, I feel like Windsor is a good resource as well as Lindsay.
Good.
So I think we'll be okay.
That's good.
Love it.
All right, thank y'all, that's all I got.
All right. Other discussion? Was there anything to talk about
I
there?
mean, I might be overstepping here, but I don't know how that information that you just gave should affect this group moving forward.
Well, I mean,
Like, do you,
I think
what
it's
is
business
there-
as usual until it's
yeah,
different.
Is it business as usual? Is it like?
well, they have, let's see, your next meeting is, what is this, April, May, June, right?
June, which typically gets canceled because I don't have a quorum. Like, I think the past 3 years we haven't met.
So then,
That's everybody's vacation.
July, August, so then your next meeting after June would be August, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to think by August that we have a pretty good framework of this at that point, so at that stage of the game, it might be fairly easy to define what y'all's next role would look like too. It would have to,
I think for now it's just
You would
business
have
as
to.
usual. If something comes up and you need to call a meeting, you call a meeting,
Right.
you plan on your regular meetings, and, because nothing changes until it's changed.
And it could take longer than you expect. You never know.
Yeah.
right, I expect that. I mean, I do expect that.
Well, there's any need to complicate it.
Yeah, but like I say, our goal is to meet every 2 Fridays a month. We're gonna meet the first Friday, not this coming Friday, but the following Friday. It's already scheduled.
So, to build the airplane while we're flying it, does the chamber need to start working on framework for a greater Clemson merchant committee or whatever? I mean, what I'm saying is once, let's say this one gets dissolved, does that then,
Well, I think that
do we
we
need to
can-
be talking with the chamber about, hey, once this happens at the city, we green light this kind of thing?
Well, I think that, I know that everything we do has to go through council for approval. And so until we, at least begin to have somewhat of a, because I'll be reporting back to them. So as we go through this, so I think at some point, council will probably say yay on that to what you just said in some form or fashion. It's probably, that's a piece of the definition, but the council will have to approve every piece of it.
It needs to be a rolling start like what you're talking about into that group. I think at some point when you're reporting to council, there'll probably be a point where it hadn't been voted on, but they feel good about the redefining of the EDAC, for lack of a better word. And then that's when you would start that roll, because then you know that you really are moving towards it.
So I guess you need to figure out from the chamber, what does it take to start a committee like that?
And the problem
I
is
think it's some months
the
before that.
chamber, not all the businesses in town are supportive of the chamber.
Yeah.
That's a
Right.
downside.
But I think this could be a selling point for you.
Not everybody joins. And so, is there a place for municipal government still in this area? Or do we kick it to the chamber, and if you're not a part of the chamber, then you don't get the benefits of it?
But
I know, but that's,
I think when you define
careful.
scope,
yeah.
Right.
Very
that'll be,
careful with that.
that'll be laid out.
Yeah, I think we're putting the cart before the horse. Like
Yeah.
this.
Let him define scope in
Yeah.
terms of what
Right.
this group's gonna do and what's left. And then what's left, how does that get divvied out?
Right.
The chamber would love to help in any way. Anytime you want to invite me to a meeting, I'd love to, this would be amazing to be involved with. But, we're here to support whatever it takes.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, because there's
So the
value
chances are
in
that-
everything that y'all have done, there's value in what this group does, even though it might not fall under the economic, like a traditional economic development group. What you do, there's value to it, so it's a matter of finding the place for this work to continue.
Well, our value has been more tactical and I would say, I just call it lower levels of things that
Yes.
need to be resolved. We've always struggled with, we always come up with, well, we really need to be bringing business into town, but that doesn't seem to be anything that we do, right? And I'm glad that you're moving forward with something that will have an influence over that, because I think we've struggled with,
Well, it's just,
how are we
you
gonna make that
have,
happen?
there's so many things that affect the businesses that are at these tables. And as a person that's outside kind of looking in, it's always like we're talking about great things, but there's always two things we always end up talking about: parking and traffic.
Right.
And so, it's just the way it is. And it just seems like that's what, in this committee, I've been on it for a little bit of a year now. That's just kind of what, we bring up great ideas, we've had some things, but majority is always, it always fizzles down to those two subjects. And so I think anything that you can do economic development wise for the city on that angle and that us could support would be a great thing for us, for sure.
All right.
Good.
Thank y'all.
All right.
Thank you. Any other topics? Any other new business? All right, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Meeting's adjourned.
Absolutely. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I know it's early, but Friday we're having a chamber meeting that we'd like to have some citizens
You do the
come
same.
and tell us what we've done.
Rest of the week too. Enjoy the cool weather. It's 80 degrees again.